Yo, so continuing chapter 9. Coming up next, electromagnetic fields from high tension power lines, groundwater contamination, underground storage tanks that hold various substances, everything from human waste to diesel fuel for the heating oil for our houses, to all kinds of other chemicals for commercial properties that can be stored in tanks underground. So, EMFs, what are they? Electromagnetic fields. Are they dangerous to live around? I don't know.
Hello, I'm Dr. Manny, and I'm here to answer your questions. Scientists and doctors make medical advances in cancer treatment every day, but we still don't know exactly why one person develops the disease and the other doesn't. We got this question from a viewer.
Dear Dr. Manny, I'm currently house hunting with my pregnant wife and came across a beautiful house that is almost perfect, except for the huge power lines directly behind it. I've heard some studies show an association between exposure to power lines and cancer. How worried should I be if I want to pursue this house? Thanks, Dan.
Then, power lines produce low to mid frequency magnetic fields, or EMFs. According to the National Cancer Institute, these EMFs are in the non ionizing radiation part of the electromagnetic spectrum and are not known to damage DNA or cells directly. But some scientists speculate that they could cause cancer in other ways. In 2002, the International Agency for Research on Cancer classified extremely low frequency magnetic fields as possibly carcinogenics to humans. The classification was based on studies that showed a twofold increase in childhood leukemia among children with exposure to high levels of magnetic fields in the home. But for more on that, we checked in with a cancer epidemiologist at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York.
And then he references as the best source uh, a study from the WHO, which I could trust them as far as I could spit, But so they end up saying, well, it probably doesn't cause cancer, but more research is needed. So yeah, I don't know. It's up to you whether you want to live underneath a high tension power line or not, and think that your kids may possibly get cancer or not, and if that's an acceptable to you. So that's the way that this story ends up. So it's I could cut off this video easy right now and just tell you how it ends. It says we don't know. More research needs to be done. Okay. And they quote the WHO says, "Oh no, it probably doesn't cause cancer," even though this other study said there's a link to it. So the question is, would you want to live under high tension power lines? Hmm. Where is my stuff here? Hold on a second. I'm trying to get you a video, or not video, a couple of images here. Class content. Let me back out of here and get to my content. This. Mm-mm-mm. Where do I keep all my screenshots? Oh, there we go. EMFs, electromagnetic fields. Now I also got to go to another folder and grab something else to show you. All right, so electromagnetic fields, EMFs. Look, the even power companies, they have laws now, power companies for high tension power lines. They need to keep all brush and shrubs cleared for 30 feet, so 15 feet on both sides of it to prevent arcing and such. You tell me if you think there may be a possible danger there living around high tension power lines when it could cause fires and such that they need to keep it cleared. And these high tension power lines, they run across the United States. Okay, we've got the different corridors in the United States that where the power grid runs through. I seen a neat little video yesterday. I found that how the states got their shapes and the Texas one. And part of that video, they actually show how Texas actually has their own power grid separate from the rest of the United States, which has two power grids that power our country. So anyway, it was that was an interesting one where they showed how how the lines ran. So here you got your distribution service lines. These are not necessarily the high tension power lines that they're talking about. There is a lot of power that runs through these lines on your telephone poles that lead the service line to your house. But that's not necessarily the high tension power lines they're talking about, which are more like these giant babies here. Look, in other countries, I think this one is from Canada. Look, they show that at various distances from the high tension power lines that you could have these health conditions. But here in the United States, nope, they trust WHO. It says, there's probably nothing to worry about. Now, here's some tips for you when it comes to dealing with working around those high tension power lines around the houses, or at least just the power lines that bring the service lines in. They bring a lot of power in too. They say, carrying ladders, stay at least 10 feet away from them. You should carry them vertically or horizontally, rather, not vertically anyway. Be careful trimming trees that are in contact with power lines. You could get electrocuted through that. And if you have fallen power lines, they're telling you stay 35 feet away from them because they could arc. You guys ever see power lines that just caught fire on their own? Anybody ever see burning power lines? No. Oh, how about that? Would you like to live near that?
Definitely not.
I don't think this is in the United States anyway, just based on looking at the license plates there. It looks like it's maybe in Canada or in Europe somewhere. But wow, that's a little bit too close to comfort, huh?
Why would people really live next to those?
Apparently. That's a little bit too close, though. So, like power companies even have for their employees, danger zones, stay so far away from it. I mean, but if you look at this house, I mean, how far away from it is it? Yeah, get your kids maybe up in the bedroom up there, or even you for that matter. And they talk about at different distances, how the danger is to work around the power lines. Here, this is one in the United States. They got these high tension power lines running right through backyards of $1 million homes in Edison. It's not like you got to go far to find them. We see them on the Route 1 corridor, right, running alongside the highway. And then it splits off into the neighborhoods off to South Edison, North Edison. They go all over the place. So you may find neighborhoods that have them in there. Okay. How about this? Let's see. Oh, gotta open up my browser window. Not open yet. Let's get that open. Show you some supporting. You ever wonder how they trim those power lines? Well, actually, first, let's take a look at this. You ever see those power lines on fire? You guys said that you didn't. Here, let me show you a video of power lines that could be on power lines on fire. And I'm surprised nobody ever seen this. I've seen this many times. Where you could be driving by this one. Check this out. That's the power lines on fire right next to the fire station. You get the fire station right over here on the left. See all the firemen standing out there? Well, the power lines are on fire. It's not like they could spray water on it. They got to wait for it to burn out, and it's just the plastic sheathing over the power lines that are melting. Maybe it had a power surge that went through the lines. It does happen. On the same line, about 2 blocks further down, it happened as well, around the same time frame, maybe a week before or a week after. But many people may have a question. Why is that? Why are they just watching it burn? Well, what else can you do? You know, unless the power company shuts off the power and they spray it down, but they just let it burn off like that. And then the power company should come out and replace those power lines with the new ones that have the plastic sheathing on them. But that's a perfect example when you get power surges. All right. So enough for watching that. I also asked you about the trees, you know, them trimming the trees, keeping them trim away from it. Well, it runs all through our country, through our towns, and throughout the country. We have these high tension power lines, and we need to keep the power lines clear from any possible fires that could break out. All right, so I'm just trying to find something and pull it up here, show you guys. And here's how the power companies keep the power lines clear. They got trees with chainsaws. They got helicopters with chainsaws dangling from lines, trimming them up. Yeah, circular chainsaw. It's a lot quicker if you have the people climbing trees to do it. Because we got to clear out themselves out of ground. Yeah, you can just cut right through. Anyone ever see that before? Helicopters with chainsaws dangling from them, clearing the shrubs. Well, this is how power companies keep those power lines clear from the trees, from the tree lines, so that they don't arc and cause forest fires and such. But they do this, look, even in our towns, you know, Edison, Piscataway, Woodbridge. You could see there's got those corridors. Sometimes they run along near train tracks. Sometimes they run along through wooded areas, and they got them clear areas on both sides. But when trees and bushes start growing by them, they got to keep them trimmed. That's how they do it. Okay, let me minimize that. Go back to our slideshow. All right, let's talk about New Jersey's Private Well Testing Act, which basically says that anybody who their primary source of potable water, the potable water, the drinking water, comes from an off-site well or an on-site well, or in some cases an off-site well, if it's feeding at least 15 sources, requires that the water be tested by the owner, and that both parties need to sign off that they received a copy of the test results, to see if there's any contamination in the water that you should be drinking. Otherwise, the contract to purchase or lease is not legally enforceable. Okay, so you could get out of a lease contract or a purchase contract if the primary source of drinking water comes from a well, and that well water has not been tested and both parties have not received a copy of the test results. There could be all kinds of contaminants in well water, that water that you drink, not everybody gets their water from the water companies that got treated at the treatment plants. You could have let's see, all kinds of contamination: arsenic, radon, microorganisms, nitrates, heavy metals, organic chemicals, radionuclides, and maybe like from radon even, fluoride, etc., that could be in the water. So what does New Jersey's Private Well Testing Act state? For any sale or lease contract, all property, residential and commercial, where the primary source of potable water comes from an on-site well, or in some cases an off-site well, it requires the well water be tested, and both parties have to sign off that they received a copy of the test results. Otherwise, the contract will not be legally binding. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't say that straight up in the book, but this is as close as we could get to it. This says that it mandates testing, and the closing may not take place until both certify in writing they received a copy of the test results. And then it says, oh, it also applies to rented property. It's third paragraph, page 157. Everybody get that? Where does the water come from that you drink? How about this? Where does water come from, period? I mean, we know we turn the faucet on and it's there, it's ready, it's on tap. But where does the water come from? You guys heard of this, the water cycle, before, right? Maybe they taught this to you in first grade. I don't know. Maybe not. Been a while.
Your water come from?
My sink?
My sink.
Sink. The sky.
It comes from
Through the faucet in my sink.
usually the faucet. I don't know. Comes from a lake,
The creek.
mountains.
Probably a reservoir or
I believe it comes from the sewer.
Oh, hello. You caught me singing in the rain, which is where you may have seen me starring in that famous dance scene.
Wow, you've been around a long time.
What can I say? I keep making comebacks.
Is that your way of saying you know a thing or two about the water cycle?
Absolutely. I am a bit of a water expert. Get it? Expert in water.
Very funny, Splash. Hey, let's get down to business. Water is one of our most essential resources.
Many people don't know where it comes from.
The water cycle is the continuous movement of water on, above, and below the surface of the earth. Surface water is all of the water we see: lakes, rivers, streams, and of course the ocean. Heat and wind cause surface water to evaporate, forming water vapor, which rises into the atmosphere.
Now you see me, now you don't.
The higher the vapor rises in the sky, the colder it gets. The vapor freezes in tiny crystals and forms a cloud. This is called condensation.
Water falls back to the earth as rain or snow,
My precipitation skills make a splash.
as the water returns to the surface.
Now, things get interesting depending on where I land.
That's right. If you land in the ocean, you will eventually evaporate and return to the clouds.
If I land on a high mountain, I'll freeze.
When snow and ice melt, the water either runs off into a stream or is absorbed into the ground.
That water collects far beneath the surface.
We call that layer of groundwater an aquifer.
To complete the water cycle, groundwater seeps back into surface water, and the whole process begins again.
To review. Evaporated surface water rises as vapor, collects in a cloud, and falls to earth as rain or snow. Some of the water runs off into lakes, rivers, and the ocean. Some is absorbed into the ground, where it eventually seeps into surface water. Simple.
Thank you, Splash.
No problem. I'm hitting the shower.
All right. So now, how does the drinking water get to your home? Let's go over the first got to get treated from wherever they get it from. We'll skip the interview part where they interview people in classrooms again.
Drinking water get to your home.
Let's try to get past all that.
Hey, Splash, did you know that reservoirs like this are one of the places where we get our drinking water?
Wait a minute there. You don't want to drink this stuff. I'm telling you, I've been in a lot of water, including this reservoir. You know what's in there? Fish. You know what they do, right? They
Don't even go there.
What happens to this water before we can drink it?
You're telling me? Hey, I've been cleaned up a few times.
New Jersey American Water's experts work round the clock, removing bacteria, viruses, micropollutants, and other harmful particles from the water you drink. They do such a good job that American Water often provides water service that is better than what the government requires.
The treatment process begins here, at the pumping station.
Pumps draw raw water from reservoirs, lakes, rivers, streams, wells, or underground aquifers. Water travels by pipeline from the pumping station to the treatment facility. The first step in the cleaning process removes sediment and particles from the water with the help of coagulants.
What?
Coagulants are chemicals that act like magnets. They cause particles in the water to stick together. These groups of particles are called flock.
I didn't know I had any.
American Water uses two common processes to separate and remove flock from water. One sinks flock to the bottom of a tank. The other method pumps air into the water and flock, causing residual particles to float to the top. The separation of water and flock is called clarification. With either method, the clarification process removes most of the flock from the water. The next step, filtration.
Whoa! What's it? Did a water droplet get a bruise? Yeesh! Ow! Wow! I just got pushed through layers of activated carbon, sand, and gravel. Please, tell me I'm clean.
Yeah, sorry, Splash. You're not completely out of the water. You're filtered, but you might be infected with tiny microorganisms. Don't worry. Disinfection doesn't hurt. Chlorine and ozone are just two of the ways we disinfect water at New Jersey American Water.
I love chlorine. It's been disinfecting water and keeping me clean for over a century. But what's ozone?
Ozone is supercharged oxygen. These bubbles scrub and disinfect. Viruses, germs, and fungi don't stand a chance.
Whoa! Hey, the tentacles! Stop it already! My pants.
Hey, Splash, guess what? You're finally drinking water, ready for distribution to homes and businesses.
Are you sure? How do you know?
New Jersey American Water's certified operators and water quality specialists test and monitor water throughout the treatment process, from source to tap. In fact, we conduct thousands of tests on your drinking water.
Nice.
So now, delivery to your house. How does it get to your home?
How does water get to your tap?
Us, those people.
Splash. Jersey American Water maintains almost 9,000 miles of pipes. Not to mention tanks, pump stations, hydrants, valves. Ooh, I get exhausted just thinking about it.
That's right, and each one has a big role to play. Pumps move the water from the plant out to thousands of homes and businesses. Statewide, New Jersey American Water delivers about 330 million gallons of water to 2.5 million people each day.
That's no small task. Each gallon weighs more than 8 pounds.
That's right, Splash. Along the way, water towers hold thousands or millions of gallons of water. These towers help to provide reliable service when demand is high and during emergencies like power outages and fires. They also help to improve water pressure.
That's good. Sometimes I need a little help. Up hills, though.
You're in luck, Splash. Pump stations help deliver water to customers at higher elevations.
Phew! Thanks for the boost.
Like the water towers, these pumps also improve water pressure for homes, businesses, and emergency services. New Jersey American Water also maintains 45,000 fire hydrants across the state.
Wow, there must be a lot of happy dogs in the Garden States.
There's more. Valves located throughout the pipelines reduce the number of customers impacted when repairs are needed or breaks occur.
It's really important to be a wet blanket, but some of those pipes are getting pretty old.
How old are New Jersey's water pipes?
Probably old, hundreds of years old.
300 years?
600, 700 years old. I have no idea.
20 years old?
A lot older than me.
Hopefully they're not that old.
They're not as old as George Washington.
New Jersey American Water's pipes range from less than 1 month to over 100 years old. Here we have the historic district. These pipes were installed in the early 1900s and are still serving customers today. Yeah, some pipes like this still work, but they're getting old and they won't last forever.
You're right, Splash. That's why New Jersey American Water has invested more than $150 million each year to improve its systems. Of that, $30 million is spent each year on replacing and fixing old pipes and equipment. But even that's not enough to keep up. At that rate, it will take hundreds of years to get to them all.
Hundreds? That's a long time. Won't the pipes start to break before then?
Yes, and fixing breaks can cost 10 times more than replacing pipes.
Wow, so investing in our water systems is more important than ever. That's good. I could use a raise.
Don't get too excited, Splash. New Jersey American Water still costs less than a penny a gallon. But if we want to replace these pipelines and upgrade facilities at a faster pace, we'll need to invest more.
That's okay. We can all benefit from new pipes, tanks, pump stations, fire hydrants.
What are you still doing here? Your break was over 10 minutes ago and I need you at pump 6.
Oh, I'm in hot water. I guess a water droplet's work is never done.
Hi, Splash. New Jersey American Water. We care about water.
It's what we do.
All right, and then we've seen already about the pumps that pump out the water to the houses. They go to the water towers, so the pumps don't got to be constantly running and then driving up the cost of water getting delivered to your house. Actually, the water pressure that goes to your house comes in at such a high pressure, you need to have reducing valves. Otherwise, it could damage your washer and dryer and your water heaters and things of that nature. Well, not the dryer, the washing machine, the water heater, etc. All right. So this gives a little quick explanation about water towers and how they work.
At New Jersey American Water, we work hard to keep your life flowing. One question we're sometimes asked is, what do water towers do? We have nearly 200 water towers across the state, and they provide water pressure throughout our system. Each foot of height provides almost half a pound per square inch of water pressure, so they must be tall enough to supply the needed pressure to customers in the area. The tanks themselves are quite large and can hold upwards of 10 million gallons of water. That's over 300 times the amount of water in an average swimming pool. Water towers are also used as storage to help supply extra water when a lot of people are using water at the same time, like in the morning and evening when people are taking showers, using the bathroom, and cooking. During the middle of the day and overnight, when less water is being used, we restore levels in the water towers so they are ready to be tapped again. Just one more way we keep life flowing.
All right, now this one is not a video from the water company, but this is a good one that shows you about how the basic plumbing works in a house. Some basic knowledge that a real estate agent should have.
What's up, guys, and welcome back to another instructional video. In this video, I want to cover how the plumbing works in a typical home. Everything we do pretty much relies on plumbing when you think of it for a second. Whether it's washing your car or brushing your teeth before going to bed, you're using your home's plumbing system. A home's plumbing system is composed of 4 things: waste drains, waste vents, potable water, and rainwater management. So let's go through each process one by one and talk about what they do. Let's start off with the drains. Most homes have either ABS, PVC, or cast iron drain pipes and vents. These pipes are connected to all the fixtures in the home, such as toilets, sinks, bathtubs, and showers. When the fixture is used, the waste is carried inside these drain pipes that have a slight slope to them down the main drain, up until it reaches the municipal drain under the street. I'll also show where this waste goes later in the video. Every here and there, you'll find cleanouts like this. These are what give you access to the inside of the pipes in case there's a blockage. Most homes in the US also have these outside, so it's easier for the plumber to access it. As for pipe sizes, most toilet drains are 3 inches, kitchen and bathroom sinks are 1.5 inches or 2 inches if it's wet vented, and showers and bathtubs are 2 inches by code. The main stacks are either 3 inches or 4 inches depending on what the code asks for in your municipality. But some homes don't have municipal services, so how do they get rid of their waste? Simple. The main drain pipe that would normally go to the sewers goes into what's called a septic tank. This septic tank, which is either concrete or polyethylene, separates the solids from the liquids and flows into a leach field or drain field, which then goes into the ground to get naturally filtered. The solids, though, eventually need to get pumped out by a vacuum truck to make sure it functions properly. Now onto the venting. For these fixtures and drains to function adequately, the system needs to be properly vented. When a toilet is flushed, for example, the water pushes the air downstream, causing a negative pressure behind it. The vents are what equalize this change in pressure to prevent things like gurgling and P-traps being siphoned out, which would allow for sewer gases to find their way inside your home. These vents get their air through the roof and need to stay clear from bird nests and debris, or you're assured of having problems. Something else this vent serves is to relieve any pressure buildup inside the actual municipal sewer line. Some cities had their manhole covers blast up 50 feet in the air because rats would chew on electrical wires and would in turn create a spark and ignite the methane gas inside the sewers. So the vent minimizes the chances of this happening. As for potable water goes, it comes from the street like the other services and typically has between 40 to 80 psi of pressure. Every home with a water supply from the city has to have a shut-off valve outside just like this, in case the city needs to close the water. This copper line, which is normally 3/4 of an inch in size, comes into the basement through the concrete slab to another shut-off valve, which is only accessible to the homeowner. Here we see the hot water tank. Your hot water tank, which is either electric or gas-fed, is fed cold water to then heat it up and distribute it throughout the house thanks to the city's pressure. Some homes still have CPVC or copper lines, but new constructions use mostly PEX as it's reliable and quick to install.
Let's back that up just for a second there. Sometimes you're going to get listings, and sometimes they're going to be in messed up neighborhoods where you get all kinds of junkies and stuff. They'll cut your pipe out. They'll cut your copper pipes out to steal it and sell it for the value of the copper and the money, so that they could get their fix. All right, it happens. I would suggest if it does happen, tell the landlord, instead of replacing it with copper pipes again, to have them tell their plumber to replace it with PEX piping. PEX piping's not worth anything to these junkies, so they're not going to be cutting it out or destroying it. But if you replace it with copper pipes again, they're going to come back and they're going to cut them out again. I had this situation before where I had a house where the plumbing got cut out 3 times before he finally took my advice and installed PEX piping. I told the guy who it was too. I said, it's your neighbor upstairs that's doing it. It's her son. He keeps cutting it out and selling it. You ever notice that the plumbing is never touched that goes to their apartment, just to the other units? There was no sign of break-in. I was like, that's them that are cutting it out. They're stealing it. But he trusted them, and until I told him to finally put in that PEX piping, and he eventually did, and then it stopped.
As it's reliable and quick to install. So back to before's question, how does one get water if there's no municipal services? In rural areas, people use wells. A well is basically a hole that's drilled approximately 500 feet in the ground to access groundwater via pumping.
Or deeper.
This water is pumped back up and goes through a series of apparatuses to make the water drinkable. A downside to this is if the electricity cuts out, you'll need a generator to get a glass of water. And the last aspect is rainwater management. In the past, rainwater and sewage was combined, meaning the rainwater went into the same sewer as the waste from your house.
It still is in some areas. New Jersey's still in the process of trying to separate their rainwater collection and their sewage system. Some areas it is still combined. It's a big, costly undertaking to separate those systems.
Since then, they've been separated to make water management easier. So when it rains, all of this water has to go somewhere, right? The rain that falls on the house's roof trickles into the gutters. Now, the gutter's job is to divert the water away from the house to prevent water infiltrations. So what most people do is install a 5-foot piece onto the downspout so the water has somewhere to go, which is perfectly fine. Other people prefer recovering this water in barrels to use as non-potable water to water their plants and flowers, and some actually connect them to the weeping tile or French drain. The French drain is the corrugated pipe that runs around the house's footing to catch any excess water in the ground. The problem when doing this is that the municipal drain could get overloaded very quickly and overflow. So it's best to invest in a rainwater collection system or to just let the soil absorb the water if possible. So where does all of this waste and rainwater go once it's in the municipality's hands? Both of these services head down the road, which eventually need to be lifted at a lifting station, which pumps the storm and wastewaters back up so they don't go too deep. The rainwater dumps itself into a nearby river, and the waste continues to the sewage treatment plant where it passes through multiple filters and treatment stages to then be released back into the nearest river, and the cycle continues. The water
Then the water's pulled in from there, goes back to a treatment plant again, and then to your house for you to drink.
from the river is filtered and pumped back into the city's main as potable water, which is safe to drink. And
so that one girl that said, "Where do you get water from?" and she said the sewer. Well, she wasn't totally incorrect there. You know, they go through the treatment plants, and then it gets put back out into the reservoirs, and then eventually they pull water from the reservoir again and treat it, and then send it back to your home.
that's basically how your plumbing system works. I hope this video clarified some things about how we use our water, and I believe it's important we all know how it works, as without it, we wouldn't have the same life quality as we have.
Yep, it's important for us to know as real estate professionals too. You know, he mentioned in there about the P traps and the gas getting into the house. That may have gone past some of you, so I have this other quick video explaining what a P trap is.
If you notice a lot of extra piping under your sink, then you're looking at the P-trap. P-traps are named after their shape. They use a small bend in the pipe to trap water, creating a seal. This trap seal prevents sewer gases and odors from leaking into your home. As water drains through the P-trap, air is pulled from an outside vent to equalize the pressure. Now, if the vent is blocked by snow, ice, or debris, then the trap seal could be sucked out with the draining water. When this happens, you might hear a gurgling sound as air is pulled through the sink drain, and you might start to smell sewage coming out of that sink. Without access to outside air, the vacuum in the system might pull air from another plumbing fixture. For example, flushing the toilet could pull air from the sink, removing the water from the trap. So if you smell sewage out of the sink drain after flushing, this could be a sign of a larger ventilation issue. S-traps are similar to P-traps, but are no longer installed in homes because they have the potential to lose the trap seal. If enough water travels through an S-trap, it will create a continuous channel through the pipe and will siphon the water out of the trap. Fortunately, an S-trap can be retrofitted into a P-trap by adding a trap arm with proper access to an air vent. Additionally, a buildup of waste can also create problems. Strands of fabric and hair along the pipe can cause water to slowly leak out of the trap through capillary action.
Capillary action is when the water flows upwards because of the garbage, the hair, or whatever that's in there. It actually sucks the water out.
This is why it's important to keep the P-trap clear of debris.
And that's it. All right. I'm not going to go through all these videos here, but here's another one telling you should clean your shower head because it could contain all kinds of dangerous bacteria and such and gook. When's the last time you took off your shower head and cleaned it? You should take it off once a month and soak it in some diluted bleach for about 30 minutes or so, and then you can rinse it completely out and then put it back in, let the water run through it a little bit. That's a good way to keep and kill some of these microorganisms, which actually could cause and bacteria, which could actually cause all kinds of sicknesses and illnesses too. Matter of fact, if you live in a high-rise building, how do you get water to the higher floors? How about that one?
I live in a high-rise building, but I'm not too sure.
You got high pressure in your water in the morning, or is it sometimes lacking?
No, you know what it is in the wee hours, like between. So I used to work until midnight, and I noticed that the pressure between like 1 and like 4 a.m. is powerful, but like 7, 8, like this time, it's weak.
When everybody's using it. Yeah. Because what you do is some buildings they use powerful pumps, and there's a little bit of a lag that they only use the pumps that on demand to pump up the water up to those higher levels. Remember, a gallon of water weighs almost 9 pounds. So you need real powerful pumps to be pushing all that water up for everybody to be taking a shower. So usually high-rise buildings, they have water towers on the tops of the building somewhere that they fill those water towers up so that when the water is needed on demand, it could just come under pressure and flow downwards so those pumps aren't always constantly running. You'll find that in buildings that have 12 to 13 stories or more. They usually have water towers on the roofs. That's yeah.
That's so crazy because as I'm looking out the window at the building across the street, I see the pump. You're gonna have me walk around this building like an inspector.
Well, with that knowledge, I'm opening up your curiosity too, right? You're seeing things now, and you're looking at things that you normally wouldn't have paid second attention to. But you know what?
That it was water towers on top. That's new. That's interesting.
You know what another interesting little factoid is? I know in New York City, I'm not sure how it works in New Jersey though, but I seen a documentary on it in New York City that these water towers that are sitting on the roofs that are holding the water. Actually, it wasn't a documentary. It was Dirty Jobs. You ever see that job, Dirty Jobs? The guy shows you all the dirty jobs that people don't like to do, but this is what's done to keep our modern society ticking along. And one of the things was he was following around a crew that all they do is replace water towers. Water towers are usually made out of wood. They're easier to maintain, and it's easier to keep them clean and to replace. And so they're on tops of roofs, disassembling the old water towers and then reassembling a new water tower on top of the roofs. And they say that in New York City, I've seen a separate documentary on this. In New York City, those water towers, they have a mandate that they need to be completely drained at least once a year by the building owner. So to prevent any kinds of bacteria or to clean out any garbage that may have gone in there, like a dead animal or something like that found its way in. So they're supposed to drain out those water towers at least once a year by mandate. And then as it turns out, it's like 90% of building owners in New York, they don't even do that. So yeah, their water is so fresh and clean on their that they got. I don't think so. Especially since the water towers usually don't get drained out by the building owners like they're required to only once a year, and they don't do it. So hopefully in New Jersey, our water towers are getting cleaned out and somebody's monitoring it, because you could get all kinds of things going on there. Legionnaire's disease and all kinds of stuff like that. All right. So what about well water? We have well water right here you think that it's an urban area, but yet we still have homes on well water, not being supplied by city water. So how exactly do wells work? So I have a short video here to show you that.
For many people in the world, they get their water supplied to them through a central supply system that
feeds to their pipes in their house or apartment. However, for the rest of the world not hooked up to centralized water, they get their water through private or public wells. Wells are some of the most essential components to developing a sustainable society. They provide a clean and reliable supply of water for drinking, bathing, and irrigation, even in locations where water on the surface is scarce. Wells are essentially just holes in the ground filled with water, but they have more complexities than meets the eye. Let's take a closer look at how wells work. Wells, historically, have been dug by hand. They essentially are just holes in the ground whose depth goes below the water table. The water table is the level of groundwater below the surface. Nearly everywhere on Earth has a water table below the surface, but in some places it's a few feet, and in others it's a few hundred or even thousands of feet. The water table isn't just an underground open lake, though. It's dirt and rock like everywhere else, except the groundwater fills the space in between the particles. In days of old, workers would just dig a hole until the hole started filling up with water. As long as the hole depth stayed below the water table depth, the hole would continuously fill with water. Many wells in remote places are still dug by hand, but now most are dug by drilling machines that can create much more uniform and far deeper wells. All of that said, let's dive into the few different types of wells in a little bit more detail. First, there's the dug wells, like what we mentioned before, and these are typically dug with shovels or simple hand tools. They'll only be possible in places with high water tables and soft ground. Once a digger reaches the water table, the hole is typically lined with stone to stabilize it. These wells typically can't be much deeper than the water table itself, as you can't dig past the water table with a shovel. The hole will just keep filling in. This is the same phenomenon you've likely experienced digging a hole in the sand at the beach. The next type of wells are driven wells. These are wells made from small diameter pipes which are driven into soft ground. These pipes typically have screens at their bottom to filter out sand and particulate matter, and can be effective, quick, and simple ways to make a well. However, they do have some drawbacks. They can really only reach shallow water, and contamination from the surface can easily occur. The last type of wells are drilled wells, which are likely the most common type of wells today, but they're also the most complicated and expensive to make. They are drilled using massive rigs which can go through all types of earth. These wells are typically very deep, upwards of 1,000 feet, and are used to reach very deep water reserves. Now that we've gone through the different types of wells, let's learn a little bit more about how they actually function. Wells fill up based on the groundwater level, like we mentioned before. Once you take water from the well, water from the surrounding groundwater slowly starts to fill the well up again. The rate of this refilling has to do with how much groundwater surrounds the well and the size of the particles in the ground, among a few other factors. If the particle space is large, the water will fill faster. If the well is fine clay, then the well will take a while to refill. For most wells, a pump is placed into the well to suck out the water. When water is pumped out and the surrounding water tries to refill the well, something called, and what is my favorite term in engineering, the cone of depression forms. The cone of depression is not what you wear when you're feeling a little bit sad. It's actually a conical depression in the water table that can extend far beyond the well itself. In fact, if a high flow rate well is installed too close to another well, the first well's cone of depression can draw the surrounding water table down so far that the neighboring well no longer works. There are formulas engineers use to calculate and model cones of depression when designing wells, which is crucial to make sure your well doesn't adversely affect anything else in the surrounding region. It's also crucial to make sure that your well doesn't overpump the water table. If you suck too much water from the ground, eventually the ground can compact and the water table will drop permanently. This settling can cause the ground elevation at the surface to go down.
You see that? I told you guys about this once before. Remember, like places in California, they keep telling us, oh, the ocean levels are rising. Well, take a look at this. In this picture right here, you can see how the ground level is actually sinking because they pumped so much water out of the ground. Look, in 1925, the ground level was up here. 1955, it sunk to down here, and this picture is taken in 1977. The ground level is now down here. Isn't that something? How much the ground level actually compacted? Here you go. Here's a picture of a roadway that the ground level compacted, and the road is still up here, but the road sunk.
In some cases, many hundreds of feet over years of well pumping. This has occurred in regions of the US, like in California and towards the West Coast. While there are a plethora of public wells that supply water for entire cities, let's focus on private wells to understand a bit more about what goes into them. Many people across the world supply their own water through private wells. These wells will be drilled near their dwelling and will have a screen at the bottom to filter out grit, a submersible pump placed at the bottom of the well, along with electrical wiring to power the pump. There will typically be a tank above ground that pressurizes the water, giving your house pressurized water to use in sinks, faucets, toilets, and showers. It's really as simple as that. The main components of wells are the well casing, which is a solid tube structure of the well cap, which is a cover of the well placed at the surface to keep animals or debris from falling in and contaminating the well. There's well screens, which are placed at the bottom of the well to keep sediment out and keep the well from filling up with dirt. Then there are pumps. Jet pumps are the most common pumps for private wells mounted above ground, which use suction to draw the water up. However, if a well is deeper than about 25 to 45 feet, a submersible pump will be needed. At these depths, the pressure required to pump water up this height is far too much for most above-ground pumps. Submersible pumps are used for deep wells and are placed at the bottom of the well. And that just about covers it. Wells are crucial to civilization, but require a number of technical factors to be considered when creating and designing them. This video is primarily focused on the basics of wells, but there are some more technical concepts that we skipped over. Things like aquifers, water head, calculating flow rates, water volume, and other uses for wells beyond purely water collection, to name a few. Hopefully, though, this was enough to give you a good introduction to the science and engineering of water wells.
Yay.
For many people in...
So, there's also another short one here. It's actually for dealing with arsenic. This one is particularly about New Jersey. And how do we get arsenic in the water? Is it man-made? Where does arsenic come from? Arsenic can cause all kinds of issues, especially in developing children, which are more than just little people. They're developing still, and it could cause all kinds of growths and skin lesions and all kinds of other problems if you're exposed to arsenic and drink it. So what is arsenic? Where does it come from? How do you fix it?
Water pollution is a common environmental problem in the world today. Often we think of water pollution as caused by human activities, as was the case for the recent water crisis in Flint, Michigan. But is all water pollution caused by humans? Not always. For example, groundwater contamination by arsenic is a natural occurring process and is becoming a worldwide environmental issue. In South and Southeast Asia alone, more than 100 million people are exposed to arsenic-contaminated groundwater, leading to severe health problems including cancer and skin disease.
Arsenic is a chemical element that is often found naturally in minerals. If you drop a rock containing arsenic into a cup of pure water, odds are not much will happen because most forms of the mineral are not soluble in water alone. However, if we add the right mix of microbial organisms and organic carbon into this cup and take out the oxygen, the mineral will break down and release arsenic into the water. Even though all this is happening naturally, human activities such as well drilling and irrigation can change the groundwater flow pattern and introduce more organic carbon that will further facilitate the arsenic release process. If your well water turns out to be contaminated, there are a few options to regain potable water in your household. The first option is to join a public water supply system. The second option is to install an arsenic filter for your well. The last option is to drill or switch to a new well that is more likely to produce arsenic-free groundwater. In less developed countries, the last option is often preferred due to the absence of a public water supply system or effective water monitoring and treatment equipment.
Today, international science communities such as MIT have built many study sites in arsenic-affected regions. The research effort has also motivated programs that are in place to help affected populations regain clean drinking water.
And so how do we do that in New Jersey? Well, first of all, I got a link up here that the NJHMFA, that's the New Jersey Housing Mortgage and Finance Agency, They offer interest-free loans up to $10,000 for you to install water treatment systems in your house to treat the water.
So you found out you have unhealthy levels of naturally occurring arsenic in your well water. Unfortunately, northern New Jersey groundwater is especially vulnerable to arsenic contamination. There are two types of arsenic to watch out for, arsenic 3 and arsenic 5. The most effective treatment methods remove both types of arsenic. Installing any of these systems into your home can be an easy and affordable investment in the health of your family and the value of your home. In this video, we will explain 2 effective treatment systems and how to maintain them in order to keep this toxin out of your home. Whichever system you choose, be sure to test annually to help determine if treatment units need replacement. The point of entry system treats high levels of arsenic in your water through a tank system installed in your basement. It is the most effective in reducing overall exposure to arsenic. The primary benefit of the whole house treatment is eliminating the risk of drinking arsenic-contaminated water from untreated faucets, and it also prevents arsenic exposure from other water uses such as bathing and brushing teeth. This is especially important if you have young children who may not consistently use water from a single source.
And in this case, you're looking at a larger filter, several feet in height, and it's traditional to the same type of tanks that are used for people to use in their house for softening the water. So we're using the same type of apparatus, and we put the media into those tanks, and then there's a valve that is placed on top of that tank that operates the system and makes sure that the homeowner has the easiest operation to handle.
The system is comprised of 2 tanks, each that contain ferric oxide media, granular ferric oxide. The first is the worker tank that takes care of the majority of the arsenic as it comes in, and the second is the safety tank that will gather any arsenic that may make it through this. This does the primary job, and again, this polishes that water.
The installation process takes only a few hours, and maintenance is simple. Though the installation cost for the point of entry system is the most expensive, the New Jersey Housing and Mortgage Finance Agency offers interest-free loans to help you cover the cost. The media inside of the tanks only needs to be replaced every few years, leaving the average maintenance cost to be less than $1 a day. Point of use systems use under-sink cartridges to remove arsenic. The system provides treated water for drinking and cooking use from one tap only, usually the kitchen sink. Maintenance is very important to ensure that the filter continues to work and generally only requires changing the cartridge once a year. That being said, this point of use system does not protect your family when they are drinking from other taps that provide water for bathing, showering, and brushing teeth.
When we found out that the water in our home is contaminated with arsenic, we decided that the point of entry system would be the best option for us. Now, my husband and I generally drink from the kitchen tap, but we were worried with having a small child at home that she might be drinking from other faucets in the house that would be untreated. Now, the only downside to the point of entry system really is the initial cost. But luckily, there are no-interest loans available from the state, so we didn't have to wait until we had that extra money available in order to start treating our home immediately. When we got the treatment system installed, we were told that both testing and maintenance are both really important. Once a year, we'll go down to the basement and we'll check the water between the 2 treatment tanks, and then we'll also check the water at the kitchen tap. We'll call up our treatment company whenever we need help changing out the sediment filters, or every few years when we have to replace the tanks. So we understand that the treatment medium doesn't last forever. All in all, though, we are able to treat all of the water in our home with an average long-term maintenance cost of about $1 a day.
You've already tested your water and found it to have high levels of arsenic. The next step is to find a treatment system that fits the needs of your home. Installing a system is easy, affordable, and will increase the value of your home. There are several questions you should ask your treatment professional about the system they will be installing to ensure that you get the right fit for your home. Make sure the system you are having installed treats both arsenic 3 and arsenic 5. Ensure that you are clear on the required maintenance of your system. Ask the treatment professional what options they have for reminding you about scheduled maintenance, and see if they can leave a testing kit at your home after they install the system. Ask your treatment professional if your water has been tested for other contaminants. If your water does have significant traces of other minerals, ask how you can remedy these issues to ensure both higher water quality and a longer lifespan for your treatment system. Check that the volume of water the treatment system processes is enough to meet the needs of your family. To protect yourselves and the ones you love from the harmful effects of arsenic, it's crucial to not only install a treatment system, but to maintain it as well. Be sure to test your water annually, even after you've begun using your system, to make sure your system is still working. To get more information about how to have these treatment systems installed in your home, please visit our website by Googling the New Jersey Arsenic Awareness Initiative. Once there, you'll find resources you need to protect your home, including 0% interest financing options offered by the state of New Jersey. Check the treatment options page for treatment professionals near you. Use the checklist to remind you what questions to ask when considering which system to install. A cost survey summary shows the range of installation costs you may find, and see the frequently asked questions for other questions you may have. By ridding your house of arsenic with a treatment system, you'll have peace of mind knowing that you have clean, safe water for your family to use.
All right, now with that, so you get that, remember, if you got anybody that's got water, well water, that they could get a water treatment system installed. They get an interest-free loan up to $20,000, up to $10,000 rather, towards putting in that that filtration system from the NJHMFA. Now let me just look for something that was in this video. Just wanted to show you when they show the water casing when you got well water. Where was it? I know it's somewhere in this video. Show you what the casing is, where you could walk around the perimeter of a house and tell if they have well water or not. I mean, another way to do that is simply not seeing a water meter inside the house. If there's no water meter in the house, well, then there's you're on private well water and not city water. Okay, here they call it the point of use system. Point of use system is the one that goes under the sink. Only the water gets filtered that's at that actual location. But you also have POET systems. Those are point of entry treatment systems. Where the heck is that? Maybe we've got to back up a little bit. The POET system is the point of entry. No, keep getting this one. Where is that? I'm going to show you what that casing looks like. It's somewhere here. All right, show point of use. Okay, let's skip past that. Maybe we can see point of entry. Oh, I didn't see it anywhere. Where the heck was it? It just looks like it's a pipe sticking out of the ground that has a cap over the top of it that prevents, you know, animals or other garbage from falling down into the well water that's getting pumped up into your house. Yeah, I have no idea where this is. I don't know why I'm unable to find it here. Maybe it was at the beginning. There we go. Point of entry system. You guys see this? This is the well casing.
Levels of arsenic in your water through it.
That's what it looks like. It's the it's just a pipe sticking out of the ground, and then it has a cap bolted to the top of it. There's also electrical wires that are running over here going down to the pump down in the bottom. But that's the way it looks. It prevents the leaves and the other garbage or scroll or something from falling down into the well and then causing all kinds of issues. All right. And let's see, are lead pipes dangerous that lead the water to your house? The lead pipes? Well, much like Michigan and other states, we got lead pipes here in New Jersey. Our legislature passed laws, though, that within so many years, they need to be all replaced. So here is, first of all, American Water. They're talking about what to do if you currently have lead pipes, how to make it safer for you to drink that water. And it's basically to run the water for 30 seconds to a minute or two before you start drinking it.
At New Jersey American Water, our business is water. One question we're often asked is there lead in my drinking water? Lead is not naturally found in drinking water. However, lead is sometimes detected in water from older homes and businesses built before 1986, when the Environmental Protection Agency banned the use of lead plumbing. We treat, sample, and closely monitor our water at various points throughout the system to ensure our water complies with all state and federal regulations. While the water coming into your home does not contain lead, if you have lead pipes, your risk of potential exposure to lead increases when the water sits unused for several hours. You can also reduce your potential risk of lead exposure by letting your cold water run for 30 seconds to 2 minutes before drinking or cooking. Water quality and customer safety have always been top priorities here at New Jersey American Water. And with such high quality, strictly regulated, and safely treated water available at your tap, why waste money on bottled water? Learn more about lead and the quality of your drinking water at newjerseyamwater.com/leadfacts.
All right. Now, what about getting those pipes out of the ground? This talks about the legislation and the timeline, and that there is a system in place, which I have a link here to, an interactive map where you could check if the pipes delivering the water to your house are lead or what material they are. And then you could also submit what types of pipes you have in your house. The water company probably sent you a couple notices on this already to snap a picture of the pipe by your water meter, right?
At New Jersey American Water, providing safe, reliable water service is our top priority. The state of New Jersey is now requiring all water providers to share with customers the material of the water service lines leading to their properties, if known. It also requires water utilities to replace all utility-owned and customer-owned lead and galvanized service lines within the next 10 years. If your service lines are lead or galvanized, it does not mean you cannot use water as you normally do. The water provided to you by New Jersey American Water meets state and federal water quality standards, including those for lead. So, how do you know if your service lines are lead or galvanized? You can visit our new interactive webpage and map to learn more at newjerseyamwater.com/leadfacts. Here, customers can enter their address to learn what their service line material is. Simply click on the map, agree to the terms and conditions, and hit OK. Then click on the Find Address field and enter the address. The map will zoom in on the address and show the service line material on the utility and customer side. If your customer-owned side is identified as unknown or you believe it is not accurately identified, we invite you to help identify it and report that information to us. Follow the directions provided, upload a photo, and submit. Below the map, you'll find more information and resources. Click on Our Approach to learn about the steps we take to meet standards for water quality. Click on Assess and Reduce Exposure to learn how you can reduce the potential risk of lead exposure. The FAQ provides additional information and answers to many questions. If the answers to your questions are not found on our webpage, you can ask us directly by completing the Contact Us form or emailing us.
All right, so let me just show you how this system works. This is the interactive map from American Water. If you do not have New Jersey American Water as your water provider, well, check with your water provider. They should have an interactive map like this too, since the state requires it now, them to disclose it in some way. All right, so this is the way that it works. If they will also ask you what source of what type of pipes do you have in your home. Here's a video that they have where you do a scratch test and you submit the picture to them.
At New Jersey American Water, drinking water quality is our top priority. That's why we're committed to replacing all lead and galvanized service lines by 2031. To do this, we need your help identifying the material of your service line. It may be made of brass, copper, lead, galvanized steel, or PVC plastic. First, locate your service line. It will be near your main water shutoff valve, typically located in your basement, garage, or crawl space. Next, there are 2 simple tests you can do yourself to identify the material. When you conduct these tests, be sure to look at the section of pipe between the shutoff valve and the wall. For the first test, you will need a magnet, like one from your refrigerator. Put the magnet on the pipe between the wall and valve. If it sticks, your pipe is galvanized steel. A magnet will not stick to lead, copper, brass, or PVC. If the magnet doesn't stick, then you can move on to the second test. Grab a coin or a key and carefully scratch the pipe between the wall and the valve. Lead will scratch easily, revealing shiny silver color beneath. If your pipe reveals a copper or golden color when scratched, it is likely made of copper or brass. If the pipe is plastic, it will most likely be black, white, or blue. Be sure the pipe is not painted when identifying the pipe type. Once you have identified the type of pipe, snap a picture of it. If you perform the scratch test, please include the mark in your photo. Then visit NewJerseyAMWater.com/leadfacts. Search your address on the map and submit your photo. Thank you for your help in identifying or confirming the...
So that's how that works. So basically, here is the link. I'll share it with you all. So any of you, once again, this is only for you if you have New Jersey American Water as your water supplier, where you could check that out. So basically, you click anywhere in here. You come to this website, you scroll down just a little bit, you click anywhere in this region here. You click there like that. You guys can all see this, right? And then you click on I agree, okay. And look, you don't even have to put in a particular address. You could even put in a zip code, 07036. Boom. That's Linden, New Jersey, where I live. All right. And then you can see the whole town here pretty much. Well, this is Raritan. That's Elizabeth. Why do they show me all that? Okay. Want to see Linden. Let me see. Search results, Linden. There we go. There we go. Now they got the right area. All right, so now in the town, you could see in some areas there is the black part. Black indicates lead pipes. Okay. And the other side, like on this one, if we were to click on this one, you know, the black side, that's lead. That's New Jersey American Water side. On the left-hand side of the circle, that color is black. That's lead. That's the pipes that come into the house. On the customer side, inside the house, it's unknown. That's why it's white. If it's blue, that means it's safe. You get either the plastic piping or copper piping or what have you, or brass piping, and you're safe. You're good to go. Okay, but as you can see, you could have properties no lead pipes for any of them except for one that's in an area. You know, so you really need to plug in your address and find out. You can see over here, look at this, a lot of them. These ones, the water company supply lines are copper, but the right side, that's in your house, is lead. And if that's the case, they could help you replace those pipes. So you really should look into it and see what kind of piping you have in your home. Yeah, I live in this area over here. No lead over here, but a couple blocks away, we do have homes that have lead within them, but none on the service side coming from the water company. Until you get down over here in a different area in the neighborhoods further away than you do. So that's how you use that system. I shared that resource with you. Check it out. Anybody putting in their address there, finding out? Everybody good? Anybody got lead?
They already did. They came by and did mines. We have galvanized, so we waiting for them to come change it out.
Yeah, galvanized steel or lead pipes, they'll change out. But any other type of piping, whether it's the plastic, the brass, or copper, even better, they will not. They won't replace it because that's the good stuff. Yep. All right. Yeah, I got the water company coming today. Like I said, I was a little bit late for class this morning. I had to clean up some area in the basement where I got it set up like a storage room, where the water company guys come in to replace the water meter. I don't know why. They replaced it a couple of years ago, but they're wanting to replace our water meter again. So I had to clean out an area down there for him. He's coming sometime today. I don't know. to replace that water meter. All right, so let's see. USTs, those are underground storage tanks. What do we keep underground in storage tanks? Well, we know septic for if you're not connected to public sewers, human waste is in the septic tanks. But we also have underground storage tanks for oil, the heating oil for your houses if you're not on gas. Look, commercial properties, there could be thousands of different chemicals that are kept underground in storage tanks. So when they're no longer in use, they're supposed to be emptied and decommissioned. They're emptied, they're cleaned out, the ground around them is tested. You could get the tanks removed, but for some reason it costs more to remove the tank than to just cut the top out, have someone climb into it, clean it out, scrub it out, fill it with an approved aggregate, which is some type of stone usually. I don't know why that's cheaper than just removing it, than backfilling it with clean dirt, but it is for some reason. So here, look at that. Underground storage tank. That's a pretty big one. Anybody here on oil heat still? Oil heat's a pain in the ass. I mean, it's needed, I guess, if you're at remote locations. But like if you're in our area right now, you could really tie into city services. I converted my house several years ago, and wow, the savings is incredible to switching to the clean natural gas. And it's also more efficient. And you don't pay for it in advance. Heating oil, you need to pay for that in advance to fill up the tank, and then you use it. Whereas gas, natural gas, you got a gas meter. As you use it, it ticks away, and then you get a bill for that, what you used. Here, with oil, you got to fill it in advance and hope you got enough. You run out of oil, you got no heat until the oil man comes and delivers it. And now you got to shop around and get the best prices. I remember, major pain in the ass. And you got to spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars up front to fill the tank. Right? You know how much it costs to fill your gas tanks in your car, right? Diesel fuel, and number 2 heating oil for the house is the same thing. The only difference is the oil that's used in the house is pink. You ever notice that? In houses that have oil, heating oil, it's pink. It's a dye that they put in there to make sure that they're not using it in gas stations and then selling it off, because it doesn't get those additional taxes that vehicles get for the fuel that's used to heat your house. Anyway, I'm going to play some video here to learn about the problem of heating oil in the house and these tanks in New Jersey. So let's start off by playing one of number 2.
Not an old oil tank.
Corroding beneath your backyard? Chances are good there's one in your neighborhood, and insurance won't necessarily cover the astronomical cost of removing it. Tonight, the second installment of our 3-part investigation into a danger beneath the soil. It's a collaboration with a dozen content partners, public radio stations, and private news organizations, both Rutgers and Montclair State University, facilitated by the Center for Investigative Reporting. Brenda Flanagan investigates toxic New Jersey.
It's caked in clay, but looks solid enough as the backhoe gently hoists Joan Fitzgerald's 500-gallon fuel oil tank out of the ground and into the air and deposits it on her front lawn in Clifton. But back in the excavated hole, dark residue stains the dirt, and the odor of petroleum's heavy above the pit.
I can smell it. And you can actually even see it if you look far down there.
Environmental consultant Steve Rich chops at the clay. Underneath, holes appear in the 66-year-old steel. Daylight shines through some that are big as dimes.
Those are big holes.
Yeah. There was, I think, unfortunately, quite a bit of oil which might have come out.
I don't know if I could talk to you right now, really. I'm upset. I've been upset all week, and now this puts the icing on the cake.
Joan's tank is only one of an estimated 100,000 fuel oil storage tanks buried underground across New Jersey, ranging in size from a couple hundred gallons to monsters holding thousands of gallons.
How often do you see something like this?
Quite a bit, maybe 50% of the old tanks, they do have holes, they do leak. Because they've been in the ground a long time, that's why.
Serious cases where plumes of contamination ride groundwater channels far beyond the tank pits require extreme excavation.
It was pretty bad. As you could see, the house had to be put on piles and beams to remediate the soil.
He figures cleanup will run a couple $100,000. Insurance might cover half. The DEP's notified whenever a critical level of contamination is detected and gets a technical report when it's remediated. Homeowners then get a letter certifying cleanup's complete, and they can't sell the property without it, he says, because banks won't offer mortgages on homes with underground oil tanks. The grant money New Jersey set aside to help compensate homeowners for fuel oil tank removal can't keep up with demand, with a waiting list 1,700 names and 4 years long. So
some are waiting in and out, and some are walking away from their homes.
Walking away.
They walk away from their homes. They just don't have the equity in the property to ultimately pay for remediation and get it cleaned up.
And they're really like the Wild West. You know, you just have these tanks out there that invariably at some point in time are going to leak.
Environmental attorney Stu Lieberman points to New Jersey's 2005 fuel oil tank exclusion policy. It lets insurers opt out of paying for damages from tank removal unless homeowners can prove that oil leaked before 2005.
It's a sin. It's really a crime that the Division of Banking and Insurance allowed the insurance companies in New Jersey to stop covering these things.
Well, hold on one second. It's not really the insurance company's job. Homeowners insurance was not meant to be a toxic cleanup plan, and that's what the politicians in New Jersey threw on the insurance companies. They said, hey, it's your responsibility now because we made these laws that we want a clean environment. So now the insurance company, suddenly the insurance that they previously had was only to insure the house, the structure and whatnot. Now it has to be there to cover, toxic spills, so that's not exactly fair on them either. So those politicians that were in bed with the environmentalists that passed these laws, and they put stricter requirements on homeowners than they do on businesses. Now that's a sin.
Is that there are many homeowners that don't have coverage and don't know that they don't have coverage.
New Jersey's Fuel Merchants Association questions whether lack of DEP oversight on oil tank removals is driving up costs, especially if an insurer is picking up part of the bill to fix those oil leaks that occurred more than a decade ago.
The costs just seem to be a lot more in the insurance world than they might otherwise need to be.
The costs that they sometimes incur for these remediations, it's really a market-driven process. And that's why the costs become so extensive in some cases.
The DEP says regulations permit industrial cleanups to leave behind small amounts of contaminants in the soil. But for home sites, banks and buyers demand much more stringent remediation standards.
There's no ability to obtain a permit to leave any contamination behind.
To help save cleanup costs, the DEP is now considering a controversial fix to relax some cleanup regulations for homeowner tanks of less than 2,000 gallons. Meanwhile, Senator Jennifer Beck's sponsoring legislation that would require insurance companies to start offering fuel oil tank liability policies to homeowners again.
If they don't want it, they have to sign and certify a letter back to the insurer that they don't want it. Otherwise, the homeowner's insurance company must provide it automatically.
Homeowner's insurance was intended to be there for the structure and for your belongings inside. It wasn't there to be a hazardous waste plan.
The insurance lobby says those policy changes and oil tank exclusions were very clear, and insurers do not want to walk it all back a decade later.
At the heart of this, it's an environmental issue. It's an issue of maintenance, it's an issue of warranty, and it's an issue of making sure that you've replaced these tanks.
Back in Clifton, Joan Fitzgerald just heard cleanup will cost $75 grand to remove 125 tons of contaminated dirt. But she says she unwittingly made a mistake by converting to natural gas heat before she removed the oil tank, and that voided her insurance policy.
Do you think State Farm is going to help pay for it?
No.
Why not?
Because I just don't think they will. Yeah.
State Farm told NJTV News that it's actively working with Ms. Fitzgerald about her claim. Now, across New Jersey, underground storage tanks and contaminated soils from old gas stations and dry cleaners lurk underground. You might be living right next to one and not even know it. We'll talk more about that tomorrow. In the newsroom, I'm Brenda Flanagan, NJTV News.
All right, so let me go to the next, the second part in this series. We're only going to watch the 2 parts, not the 3 parts.
New Jersey's toxic legacy doesn't just reside in its many Superfund sites. It goes into the soil. And reporting. Brenda Flanagan investigates toxic New Jersey.
It was something out of a fantasy dream, like a nightmare almost, but it was really happening.
Elliot Zygmunt's lived with a fuel oil tank nightmare for 6 long years. His yard on Larch Avenue in suburban Teaneck is pocked with test wells that monitor contaminants still flowing in the groundwater beneath his property, despite cleanup costs now pushing $600,000. The oil leaked from an old fuel tank once buried in his side yard.
We wanted the tank out of the ground. My oil service company told me it was a ticking time bomb. Even before they got the tank out of the ground, they smelled and saw oil. They saw holes in the tank. It was bad.
And it got much worse. After the contractors winched the tank up out of the ground in July 2009, they tested the soil and discovered serious contamination, a toxic plume of volatile organics that flowed beneath his neighbor's home as well.
In the first couple of years of this was really my house, my property. Their property was a construction zone. You know?
What did your neighbors say? How did they react?
Not well. They didn't take it well.
I was so angry, and there was nothing I could do about it.
Neighbor Inez Solomon says she watched in frustration as workers jacked up Zygmunt's house and excavated 250 tons of tainted soil between their 2 properties, the remediation prescribed by Triassic Technology, which was hired by his insurance company. They replaced it with clean fill. The result?
There's still oil?
Yeah, there's still oil.
That's why monitoring wells still pepper both his property and the Solomons, connected by specially heated conduits to a shed in Zygmunt's backyard. The conduits lead to a filter that removes any residual oil seeping from the water table into the monitoring wells.
This is basically a very sophisticated, big Brita. That's the way it was explained to me, a big Brita filtration system.
The costly hookup hasn't logged 2 consecutive clean months in more than a year of filtering. Zygmunt's insurer has since hired a different company, Earthworks Environmental, to try a new technique, injecting the ground with hydrogen peroxide. That might cost another $100,000. Meanwhile, Zygmunt says his insurance company figures it's responsible for 82% of the estimated $600,000 bill. And with the special state fund that reimburses homeowners for fuel oil tank removal costs basically broke, that'd leave Elliot Zygmunt on the hook for maybe $100,000. His home's appraised at only $300,000.
The fact that they're looking to clean up the state environmentally on the backs of single-family homeowners is just patently absurd. These are expenses that no single family should be asked to endure.
Next door, the Solomons feel similarly trapped. Their insurance company's response?
Our company will not touch this.
So you're just stuck?
We're stuck. We can't sell the property. We've asked whether we can sell it. We cannot sell it until this has been resolved.
And both families want to know why they're ultimately responsible for what amounts to a toxic cleanup project with impossibly high environmental standards.
There's no supervision from the NJDEP. Never once in this 6-year period has a representative of the DEP come out here and looked at the property or told me the job is being done correctly, the job is being done incorrectly, we might have done it this way, we might, it's just you're on your own.
Zygmunt's contractor, Triassic Technology, called this case an unfortunate circumstance because the house sits on shallow bedrock, where the water table fluctuates between the rock and the soil. That makes it a difficult cleanup. There's a lot more testing that has to be done. It's quite a bit more expensive. He faces the same cleanup standards as a chemical factory.
You can always find a case that everything just doesn't work right.
Assistant Commissioner Mark Peterson revealed the DEP is now re-examining cleanup standards for underground heating oil tanks.
Homeowners wanted that, so they had a greater predictability of the environmental professional doing the work, and some environmental professionals wanted that also. So we're working on those regulations to revise them.
We feel so exhausted and burned out by this whole process. I'm 70 years old. I mean, I've done all the correct things in life. I've brought kids up. I've always been an honest person. I'm looking forward to, you know, my golden years here, and all I'm doing is wondering whether I'm going to have to abandon my house someday.
NJTV News contacted the DEP about Elliot Zygmunt's case, and a member of the department was there at his home when peroxide treatments began. He's hoping for success by next summer. But Zygmunt's only one of tens of thousands of Jersey residents facing what some call a fuel oil tank epidemic. We'll have more on that tomorrow. In the newsroom, I'm Brenda Flanagan, NJTV.
So that kind of sucks, right? If you got an oil tank. So when you got buyers, they're interested in purchasing a property that contains an oil tank. You need to get the ground tested. You need to find out if there is an oil tank on the property, first of all. Sometimes person says they're on gas heat, but you got to do a little investigation on your own to get a tank sweep done. A tank sweep will show you if there's an abandoned oil tank somewhere on that property, which, as you could see, would be quite important for a homeowner to try to find out, right? You need to know if there's a abandoned tank on the ground somewhere, so that you could test it. Sometimes it can be found under the house itself, under the basement. Most cases it's around the perimeter of the house, but you never know. This is why you really need somebody to know what they're doing when they're doing those oil tank sweeps. So let me pull up an example. I'll show you how they do those sweeps. Okay, here we go. Oil tank sweeps. Let me make sure I get the right one for you here. Well, here's one company. It's an ad from one of them. They show you how they scan for it. Okay, let me try to get you on that screen. There we go.
If you are buying or selling a home in New Jersey, give yourself the peace of mind and assurance that an oil tank sweep can bring. Qualified Tank Services has certified more than 1,000 sweeps over 12 years and offers what no competitor can match, a 100% guarantee. After searching the house for any signs of an oil tank, our certified inspectors sweep the grounds in a fast and efficient manner. If our technician finds reasonable cause, he will mark the area in question and inspect the ground with a metal probe to determine how deep the unidentified object is, as well as its approximate size. Through years of experience, our tank sweeps have been designed to be as unintrusive, time-sensitive, and accurate as possible. Our technicians are experts at finding any signs of an oil tank that may have existed in the past, even examining home additions that may conceal oil tanks from other companies. Within 24 hours after the oil tank sweep, we will provide you with a summary letter certifying if an underground tank exists or not, and leave you with the peace of mind that you deserve. Don't settle for anything less than a 100% guarantee with the best experts in the business. Call Qualified Tank Services today.
This is not meant to be a promotion for them, even though it's their commercial. I just have a lot of random videos here. I just picked that one out for for the oil tank sweeps. We have another one where a guy shows you where he actually finds an oil tank. Where are they? That's not it. Yeah, I know which one I'm looking for here. Well, that's not the one I want to show you either. Dang it. It's just an ad. That's it. Yeah.
Hi there, I'm Tom Monroe of Monroe Home Inspections. If you're looking to purchase an older home, it is imperative to get an oil tank scan done to make sure there's nothing lurking underneath the soil in the back or front yard that would cost you tens of thousands of dollars in the future to clean up the contamination caused by a buried oil tank. This homeowner here bought this home without an inspection or an oil tank scan and started a renovation, and that renovation contractor called me and said that they found something sticking out of the back of the home that concerned them. I immediately got my oil tank scanner, came over, and I want to show you what I found.
First of all, before you, in order to find out if there's a possible oil tank or if they ever had an oil tank in the house, you can look for signs in the basement by where the heating system is, and check the floor and check the walls to see if there's a copper tube that is coming through the wall or was snipped off. It was cut off where it used to come into the wall. That's your first sign, because that's how the oil would feed into the house to the heating system if it was under the ground, in the ground, versus an oil tank that's in the basement or above ground.
Show you. So what that renovation contractor found was this copper pipe sticking out of the back of this home. Now, what this copper pipe typically leads to is a buried oil tank. What I did is I took the time to find the tank already, and I mapped it out with some paving stones so you can see exactly where it is. Now, how I find these buried oil tanks is with this unit right here. It's a metal detector, Schoenstatt XT92, and it shows me the exact edge of the tank. It makes some sound, different sounds as I go over the metal. See, as I go away from the metal, it's quiet. As I go towards it, and up and over the tank, as I go along the edge of that tank, it shows me, then it shows me the end of the tank. Over here, come along this edge here, clearly shows me where this tank is.
That's like one of the tools that they use. They also use, this is a metal detector. They also use ground penetrating sonar. It looks like a little shopping cart with a magnet on the bottom of it that they're pushing along the ground. There's several different kinds of tools that they could use for tank sweeps, but they're very important. I've had somebody that was interested in buying a house before, and the house that they were buying, the owner said, oh, it was never oil heat, it was coal, and then it went directly to gas. And then we did a tank sweep anyway, and we found it under the driveway. There was a big mass of metal there underneath the driveway by doing the ground penetrating sonar. So you gotta really do the testing, because who's responsible for any contamination on the ground? Anybody? Who's responsible for contamination found on the grounds? It's the property owner. It's your property. You're responsible for what's on your property. So it doesn't matter if it's a result of contamination that you did or if it was someone else. It's the homeowner, the landowner, that's responsible for it. They could always chase after the person who was responsible for the contamination, but the homeowner is responsible for the cleanup. It's your property. Should have done your due diligence before you bought it. You bought it, was contaminated. Now it's your problem. You're responsible for the cleanup. You could always chase after those who has caused that contamination, though. All right, now when it comes to septic systems, cesspools, and tight tanks, well, 2012, there was legislation passed that for environmental laws that said that anybody with a cesspool or tight tank, it must be replaced with a septic system when selling your home, with very few exceptions. So this is the code here and the write-up on it for anyone that's interested in that. So if you have a cesspool or tight tank, you have to upgrade it to a septic system or connect to city services. Don't need to know that for exams, though. Here's a septic system, basic cutout of the septic tank that it goes to. This is a 2-compartment tank that then runs off to a drain field. Here's a video that shows you how these septic systems work. Now, this one is based in Michigan, but it works the same way here in New Jersey. So I'm going to show you how these septic systems work. They're anything but maintenance free either. Okay, if you're using antibacterial soaps and things, well, you got to be careful and replenish the good bacteria that is needed for septic systems to work properly. Antibacterial soaps can kill them and then foul up your septic system. It breaks down the solid.
Over 40% of Michigan homes use septic systems to treat their household waste. These systems are underground, so are easy to ignore. But lack of proper care can result in costly problems that hurt our pocketbooks and our environment. Understanding your septic system is the first step to keeping it working properly. Here's how it works. When the wastewater from the house enters the tank, some of the solids settle to the bottom, and other waste such as oils and fats float to the top. Only the liquid from the middle zone leaves the tank for the drain field, where it flows through a series of pipes with openings that allow the water to percolate into gravel surrounding the pipes. As the wastewater moves into the gravel and the soil underneath, the contaminants in the sewage are filtered and treated with bacteria that occur naturally in the soil. Let's look at a few common myths. This family just paid $10,000 for their new septic system.
Now our system will last forever.
No way. The average life of a septic field is only 20 years.
But until then, we can use it without a care.
Actually, no. They must be treated carefully or they will fail even sooner.
What goes down our drains is gone for good.
Wrong again. Americans pump over 4 billion gallons of wastewater a day underground, and it doesn't just disappear. Septic systems connect to our environment. After being treated in our septic tanks and drain fields, wastewater re-enters our groundwater, streams, and lakes. Improperly treated household wastewater can contaminate our well water, swimming beaches, and wildlife habitat. Following a few simple guidelines will ensure your system works effectively. For instance, provide a barrier so vehicles don't drive or park over it. Compaction can remove the air spaces in the gravel, so critical to the percolation process. Tanks must be pumped regularly to remove the built-up sludge and scum layers. If there is not enough room in the tank for proper settling to occur, solids and fats can be pushed out before the tank can do its job. Solids that leave the tank can clog the pores between the stones. This will cause the drain field to become saturated and unable to treat the sewage, allowing contaminants to reach our environment and the system to back up.
Oh, no.
It's really important to be careful what you put down your drain. Put fats in the trash so they don't clog up your system. Don't rely on your garbage disposal to get rid of food scraps. Compost or trash them instead. Gardens love your coffee grounds, but septics hate them. Drains aren't trash cans. These are some of the worst cloggers. Put them in your trash, not down your drain. And just because a label says it's flushable or biodegradable does not mean it's safe for septics. And septics do not remove chemicals. Take things like solvents, paints, and pesticides to your local household hazardous waste collection site. Septic systems also don't remove the chemicals in medicines, and these compounds are showing up in our lakes and streams, posing a danger to wildlife. So wrap and trash them instead. Phosphates are found in most dishwasher detergents and are not removed by septics. They end up in lakes and streams where they cause an overgrowth of algae, which fouls our beaches and removes vital oxygen from the water. Look for phosphate-free. As each gallon enters the tank, an equal amount is pushed out. The tank needs time to do its job properly, so don't use a lot of water-producing appliances all at once, and don't let water run unnecessarily. Until you need it, turn it off. And save up for full loads of laundry instead of lots of little ones. Buy low-flow toilets and replace old laundry machines, shower heads, faucets, and dishwashers with the new ones that follow today's water-saving standards. If you have a leaky faucet or toilet, fix it immediately. Even a slow leak can overwhelm your system. Watering over the drain field can also lead to saturation and septic system failure. Remember, it's all connected. For yourself and for future generations, please take good care of your septic system.
Okay, so that was very informative. And now we have CERCLA, the Comprehensive Environmental Response Compensation and Liability Act, passed by Congress, that created a fund called the Superfund of $9 billion, which once used to be a lot of money at one time, in 1980, to clean up uncontrolled hazardous waste sites and respond to spills. But that money, $9 billion, is to clean up hazardous waste sites over the entire United States. I mean, they've given more money than that to the Ukraine to fight their wars, right? Or to other countries for random nonsense, as we've seen DOGE expose a lot of government wasteful programs throughout the world, teaching all kinds of nonsense, and 100 million here, 100 million there, billion here, billion there. But yet only $9 billion, yet you hear politicians constantly here in the United States claim to be environmentalists, wanting to protect our environment, and they point at the other political party and say they want dirty air, Well, if they were really serious about cleaning up the environment, they would add a lot more money than $9 billion to the Superfund. That's not even enough money to clean up the sites in New Jersey alone, let alone the entire country. So look at politicians where they speak with their actions, not with their words, because often it's just bullshit coming out of their mouths. Because $9 billion, that's not even enough to fix New Jersey, to clean New Jersey. But that's the money that they allocated to clean the entire United States. So obviously that fund needs to be replenished every now and then. And so they have that Reauthorization Act, SARA, that replenishes that super fund periodically. Now the fund is administered by the EPA, and the EPA works with local environmental agencies when states have them. New Jersey has the DEP. But as you've seen in the videos, This guy for 6 years never seen one investigator from the DEP come to his house until the media got involved and they were going to do that hydrogen peroxide injections into the ground. And then they finally got them to come out. Now, liability under the Superfund is on the landowner. It's your property. You're responsible for the cleanup, regardless if you're the one who caused it or not. You could always chase after the person who caused it or previous owners to help pay for those costs. Then we also have the Industrial Site Recovery Act, ISRA, and the Wetlands Protection Act and other acts like that. But ISRA basically covers commercial and industrial property. It says anytime a business gets shut down or is sold, that the grounds need to be tested and cleaned up. You guys ever see a gas station up for sale? How they put the fence around it usually? You guys ever notice that when a gas station's up for sale, they close it down, they put a fence around it. Then they start digging up the oil tanks from the ground and they replace them. Then they repave the ground. Then it opens up as a gas station. 6 months later, they got the fence around it and they're digging up the tanks again because they've probably sold the gas station or shut it down again. Well, these laws are in black and white. There's no common sense in between. Right? There's no gray area. That it just says when these sites are shut down, when the businesses close or they change ownership, it needs to be cleaned up again. It's actually creating more hazardous wastes. Where they just replaced those oil tanks in the ground, and now you got to dig them up again and replace them again. It's ridiculous. But if you guys ever seen that, where they got the gas station, where they put the fence around it, they dig it up, they repave it after they put new tanks in the ground. And then, again, later on that year, they're doing it again. That's why. Because they probably closed the business or they sold it. So they had to redo it again. It's kind of ridiculous, isn't it? So let's highlight in our books what CERCLA is. And it created this fund called the Superfund. You guys familiar with the Clark Shopping Center? Off Roughton Road, you got the Clark Shopping Center over there. You got the golf course on one side. You got that Whole Foods on the other with all kinds of other Panera Bread and all those things in there.
LA Fitness and all that.
Yeah, yeah. You remember what used to be there?
I'm too young.
There was factories there. Okay, and across the street where the golf course was, there was a factory there as well. I remember when I was a kid, my dad actually read to me an article that he read in the paper about that place. It said that the ground there was so contaminated that nothing can be built there for 1,000 years. Now, I'm not that old, and they already got restaurants there and a golf course and all kinds of stuff. So what did they do that this highly contaminated ground that nothing can be built on it for 1,000 years, all of a sudden is usable? Well, I guess if you know the right people to pay off, right? But anyway, often what the DEP will allow is on these commercial sites, not for your home, but for commercial sites, they allow them just to dig up and replace the top 6 feet of soil and replace it with clean soil. And then they could build the golf course and the restaurants and all that stuff there now. But underneath that first top 6 feet of topsoil, beneath that, it's contaminated land. As a matter of fact, if you take a look at the golf course, there's no indication of that across the street where the strip malls are. Even though that ground was contaminated too. But across the street where the golf course is, admittedly, it was more contaminated. It's still listed as a Superfund site. And you could see the smallest Superfund site sign you'll ever find in your life on that wrought iron fence at the corner by the light and at another corner of it by the parking lot entrance. There's a little sign there. And it gives the number of the site with the phone number if you want to get information about it. And if you actually look at the golf course, every now and then you'll see these pipes sticking up out of the ground. These are vent pipes for any kind of decomposing waste or gases to escape out into the environment, into the air. Okay, those are the vent pipes that you often see sticking out of the ground at Superfund waste sites. So they got them there. That's a Superfund site still. But yet they got restaurants, a golf course. All right, so this Superfund site, the CERCLA, created a process for identifying potentially responsible parties, or PRPs, and ordering them to take responsibility to clean up action. CERCLA is administered and enforced by the EPA. Now, who has liability? A landowner is liable under CERCLA when the release or threat of release of a hazardous substance has occurred on their property, regardless of whether the contamination is the result of the landowner's actions or those of others. The owner can be held responsible for the cleanup. This is why, especially for commercial site sales, there are phases of the sale. Real estate's not an industry where you fake it till you make it. In some commercial properties, you really need to get the ground tested before you allow a buyer to purchase that property. They need to get the grounds tested to make sure it's not contaminated in any way. You know, in the past, even here in New Jersey, we've had new home complexes that were built on top of former garbage dump sites. It's more popular in Staten Island. Staten Island, the entire thing used to be a garbage dump. Now you got rich area homes like Toten Hill and stuff. That all used to be a garbage dump. You got all these expensive new homes and townhouses on top of a former garbage dump site. So naturally, when you go to buy a new home, you figure that the land that they built that new home on is not contaminated, right? But that's what, you know what happens when you assume. We learned from Benny Hill, you make an ass out of you and me. Well, don't assume anything with that. But since that, New Jersey has now passed laws that before, which we're going to learn about in chapter 18, that anytime you do a subdivision, that the grounds need to be tested first, because unsuspecting buyer would assume that new construction, that the grounds would be tested and you wouldn't be building new houses on top of a former toxic waste or dump site, right? Well, it could happen. So there's legislation that requires that the grounds be tested first in certain situations. All right, so when it comes to ISRA, page 159, the Industrial Site Recovery and Wetlands Protection Act, it provides for mandatory cleanup of industrial and commercial sites when they're closed, sold, or otherwise change ownership. That's why I was telling you about those gas stations, how they get fenced up and they remove those tanks from the ground anytime they close or change ownership. So recognizing the necessity for preserving the ecological balance in the areas between the sea and the land, one of the most vital and productive areas of our natural world, highlight New Jersey legislature enacted the Wetlands Act of 1970. And under this, the Department of Environmental Protection, that's a New Jersey agency, the DEP, regulates certain activities in designated wetlands. So riparian owners who wish to conduct any of the regulated activities must apply to the Commission of Environmental Protection for a permit. Regulated activities include, but are not limited to, draining, dredging, excavating, removing soil, mud, and sand, dumping or depositing any rubbish or similar material, discharging any liquid waste or erecting structures, driving pilings for piers or placing obstructions, whether or not they change the ebb and flow of the tide. So additional legislation has been enacted that requires a person to apply to the commissioner for a permit to erect manufacturing, processing, or housing facilities in the coastal areas that might also tend to pollute the marine environment. Permits are granted on the basis of the applicant's preparation for meeting established environmental standards and preserving those natural resources. All right, so on page 344 and 345, there's a list of other legislation that puts the DEP in charge of monitoring certain areas. So basically, who do you get permission from to do any construction or development in certain areas of the state. Well, under the Wetlands Act of 1970, anywhere where there's wetlands, you need to not only get a building permit from your municipality, but also permission from the DEP. And on page 344 and 345, they'll show you that there are other laws that give authorities to the DEP in the highlands areas of the state. Under the Highlands Water Protection Act, that gives the DEP the authority to regulate those areas. In the Pine Barrens, it's the Pinelands Protection Act. Wetlands, it's the Wetlands Protection Act. In the coastal areas not covered under the wetlands, it is CAFRA. And then you have the Waterfront Development Act as well. So, before you build, you got Buy Bob here. Buy Bob is a guide for anybody who's going to do any construction. It stands for Before You Buy, Before You Build. So you need to see who you need to get instructions from. So there's a little resource here, this guide, nj.gov/dep/landuse/buybob.html. Okay, this is a guide where you could find out who you need to get authorization from before you could do any construction in the highlands, the pinelands, the wetlands, CAFRA, or any other area. All right, that the DEP may be regulating in addition to your local municipality. Hell, if you have a house that's in a historic section of town, you may also need to get permission from the local historic society. They often could restrict you from being able to put any additions or changes to the house that say you want to upgrade the siding. It needs to maintain that same original look. You could upgrade to the newer materials that have better insulation. However, they need to have that, they need to maintain that historic look about them, according to the Historic Society. Okay. So, additional governmental powers that say that all residents have public access to beaches should be open to the public on an equal basis. We have landmark preservation sites, you know, like the Girl Scout House in Rahway. Yeah, that's the former Merchant and Drovers Tavern and Hotel or Motel, where George Washington stayed. It's right next to that cemetery there. Anybody know what I'm talking about in the corner in Rahway on St. George Avenue? The old Girl Scout house. Okay, then we have the historic districts. We have areas of town labeled as historic districts. We as real estate agents, be careful about your puffing. What is puffing?
Yeah, ads, being extravagant.
Yeah, extravagant statements of opinions. That's done as part of salesmanship. Okay, you got to be careful about that when you're selling a house in a historic section of town. Be careful about telling people, oh, you could always put a pool back here or a deck or put an addition on, because they may not. They would need to check with the local historic society to see if they can. And typically the historic societies in historic districts of town, they don't want you changing the footprint or the exterior look of the building. You're free to remodel to your heart's content on the interior, but on the exterior, they want you to maintain that historic look about it. So be careful about telling people, oh, you could always do this, oh, you could always do that, because if they can't, and they relied on the information that you said that they could always do this, that could end up in a lawsuit later on because they relied on your guidance as the expert. So be careful when puffing like that in a historic section of town. Okay. And then direct public ownership of land is also a means of land control by the government. So let's highlight, well, nothing really to highlight there. Public access to beaches should be on an equal basis. And regulations setting up local historic areas or landmark preservation districts may restrict an owner's right to alter certain old buildings on the exterior. That's under landmark preservation and historic districts. And I believe that is this for this chapter. Everybody got that highlight? Yep, that's it. Okay, so let's do the key terms to review now. There is one of them. Next to letter F, though, before the sentence where it says a use that does not meet the zoning requirements, I want you to write the word proposed above that. So it's a proposed use that does not meet the current zoning requirements. That's how it should read. All right. So let's start off with a limit on use of property set by the seller.
Deed restriction.
A limit of use of property set by the seller. Yeah, that would be a deed restriction. Sorry about that. 7 is A. Standards for construction.
Building codes.
2 is B. Government's power to take property for public use. What is their power to take the property?
Eminent domain.
9 is C. Permission for construction.
Building permit.
The building permit. 3 is D. Inspector's approval for human habitation before anybody can occupy those premises.
Certificate of occupancy.
Yes, 5 is E. A proposed use that does not meet the current zoning requirements.
Variance.
Is a variance. It's a permit, right? 17 is F, to vary from the current zoning requirements. A primary method by which local governments recognize developmental goals.
Master plan.
It's all part of their master plan. Correct. 13 is G. New Jersey's agency overseeing natural resources. What do we call that? New Jersey agency.
Department of Environmental Protection.
The DEP, correct. 8 is H. Okay, the next one, they're looking for the abbreviation for Comprehensive Environmental Response Compensation and Liability Act of 1980, which is CERCLA. So I'll just give that one to you. 4 is I. They're just looking for the abbreviation, CERCLA. Reversion of property to the state when intestate owner dies without heirs.
It's cheap, man.
It escheats. Yep, that means it reverts to the state. 10 is J. Discriminatory local regulations.
Exclusionary zoning.
Exclusionary zoning. 11 is K. And that was outlawed by that was made illegal and outlawed by what?
Mount Laurel.
The Mount Laurel court decisions. There you go. 11 is K. So court action by which government takes property. What do we call the actual taking? Government's power to take your property is eminent domain. What do we call the actual taking of it through the court system?
Condemnation.
Condemnation is correct. 6 is L. Municipal restrictions on the use of real estate in various areas.
Zoning ordinance.
Those are the zoning ordinances, correct. They say what can be built where and what the purpose of that structure can be used for. 18 is M. Existing use that doesn't meet the current zoning standards. But then again, it doesn't have to because it was there before the zoning laws were created or changed. What do we call that existing use?
Non-conforming use.
14 is N, a non-conforming use. It is grandfathered. Once widely used wall covering containing a now banned metal.
Lead-based paint.
Lead-based paint. 12 is O. A naturally occurring radioactive gas. Causes cancer.
Radon.
Radon. And can you tell me also, a little bonus here, what are considered dangerous levels of radon that require remediation?
4 pico, something.
Doesn't matter how you pronounce it. Pico or pico curies, yes. I pronounce it as a pico curie. Sometimes I say pico, but it's pico, whatever. 4 picocuries per liter. So you may want to write that next to radon, 4 PCI. So the answer to that was 16 is P. And next to radon, write 4 PCI/L, because I think that's the way you'll see it on the state exam. Our exam, I think you'll just see it as 4 PCI. State exam will be like 4 PC, 4 P, capital C, little I, / capital L. 4 picocuries per liter. Government's right to regulate for health and safety.
Asbestos.
The government's right to regulate for health and safety. What's the government's
Police
right?
power.
That's part of their police power. 15 is Q. And now banned hazardous mineral once used for insulation.
Asbestos.
That's asbestos, correct. Asbestos. All right, so that concludes chapter 9, finally.